I'm ugly. I'm an ugly guy. Hi everybody and welcome. This is the Trailer Park Prophet, Daniel Gray at the helm today. Hump Day with the Prophet, broadcasting live from beautiful, overcast Crestone, Colorado. Alright everybody, hey listen, thanks a lot for being here. I guess now it's March 26. Hard to believe the month of March is going by so quickly. Spring is here, even though we're having a cold day. A lot of people in the east are getting snowed on. So, such is the story of life. Everything changes. A lot of people want life to be a merry-go-round. That's why they take Prozac, and a lot of us out here understand that life is a roller coaster, and sometimes you get a little bit shaken up in your seat and turned upside down and around and over and loop to loop. Life is just that, a roller coaster. And people who are on drugs like Prozac want life to be a merry-go-round and not have to experience the ups and downs of life. Maybe they just can't handle it. They're pre-programmed to be disconnected so much that they're not able to handle some of the difficulties of life. It's kind of a crazy, mixed up world. The reason I started thinking about this was I got in an argument with one of my Facebook friends. Not an argument, it was a discussion about homeless people, and she has a lot of compassion for homeless people, and she's of the mind that most people are homeless because they're mentally ill. And I made the case that a lot of homeless people are homeless because they're basically parasites on society. And I honestly think I see a lot of that in my area here in Crestone. We have a population in Crestone of approximately 150 people. And then right adjacent to Crestone is this big development called the Baca. And I believe there's maybe 1,000 people living out in the Baca, depending on the season. And out of that number of people, less than 2,000 people in this basic area, we have, at this time around Crestone, about 25 homeless people. And you see them every day because they hang out in front of the grocery store or at the bar or the coffee shop. And they conjugate and have their morning coffee and discuss their day and whatever's relevant in their world. And as far as I'm concerned, all of the homeless people that I see around town, they seem like they're healthy enough to be gainfully employed, and yet they choose not to be. And Crestone is very giving in that they have a food bank, a well-stocked food bank that hands out food every Wednesday. And there's a list out, or a line out, as we speak, outside of Town Hall where the food bank is, and a lot of these homeless people are there collecting food. So in a way, our government is instituting people to be slackers, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not saying that there's not a need necessarily for a food bank and that there aren't people in Crestone that are in need, and I'm not necessarily against that. I'm just merely pointing out that by being so compassionate and by having it instituted or institutionalized by a town, in this case Crestone, I think you're trying to invite more homeless people, and I think you're condoning homelessness and lack of resolve, lack of effort to try and support oneself. And I understand, what Angela was saying about the mental health component. Like one of these guys, his name's Bo, and he has 3 dogs, 3 very big dogs. And he's homeless. He's living in the forest. He's living in the woods. And one has to ask themselves, well, is Bo a little crazy for being homeless? Is Bo a little crazy for having 3 dogs and being homeless? Or is Bo just one of these people that doesn't want to work? And I kind of think the latter. I don't think Bo is really interested in working. I actually was going to try and hire him to do some work around my house here, and you know, he was all excited, and he was going to show up at the end of the day and help me out, and then he didn't show up, and then he said, well, I'll be there in the next day, and then he doesn't show up, you know, and that could be a one-off situation with Bo, I don't know, but I don't really get the feeling that a lot of these homeless people around here are really much interested in working. I mean, there's another homeless guy here who has 2 goats, and he's homeless. I mean, he's living out in the woods. He's outside all day long. You see him sitting in one location 4 hours on end with his 2 goats. And he seems perfectly sane to me, and yet he doesn't have a job, he doesn't have a home, he's got 2 goats, and he lives in the woods. And like I'm telling you, for just a little small area, we have a hell of a lot of homeless people. We have, I know there's one woman that's living in her truck, you have a lot of people living in their cars, which is homeless, I think. And there's one guy I've been wanting to talk about, his name is David. And he's an older guy, and he's alcoholic, and I don't know where he gets his money. Someone told me that David gets money from being a American Indian, Native American, and he does have money, but he chooses not to live in a home. And he drinks all the time, and he just trashes out his campsite. In fact, Dave has trashed out so many campsites that he no longer is allowed to be in the national forest or on BLM land. Because everywhere he stays, all he does is just trash it out with beer bottles, and he poops in the woods, and his toilet paper's flying around in the wind. You know, he's basically kind of a disgusting creature. Now Dave, I think maybe is a little bit off his rocker. I don't know. I mean, when you talk to him, he seems perfectly reasonable, but I really don't like the guy. And part of the reason I don't like the guy is because I found out from his son, one of his sons, that when he was a kid, Dave, his father, left the family for another woman. And it caused a lot of heartache and consternation on the son's family. And you know, he came here this winter to see how his father was doing, and he didn't feel like he had the right to have to help his father out, because his father didn't help him out when he needed a father the most. And so the son was reluctant to help Dave out. And then I remember I was talking to Dave here recently, and he told me that he had been married, oh God, I can't remember how many times, at least 4 times, and had 7 kids. And now he's sleeping in the back of his old Toyota pickup every night. Now, you gotta say, you know, a normal person wouldn't do that. A sane person wouldn't do that. And maybe these people are mentally compromised. I don't really know. I mean, they seem perfectly cogent individuals to me, and it just seems like they lack motivation. But it's an interesting phenomenon that's going on in this country. I'm telling you, I got a feeling that the homeless rate across the nation is rather high. And I think we're going to start to see. In fact, I think I read a story here recently of a Hooverville kind of town, shanty town, springing up near Washington, D.C. But I have a feeling if things keep going the way things are going with this economy, maybe we'll start to see more homeless people. I think we are seeing more homeless people. So maybe it's not their fault because there's not very many good paying jobs. And the other thing too, a lot of the construction jobs here in Crestone are taken by illegal aliens. They come out here and they get the good construction jobs because nobody wants to have to carry workers' comp or any kind of health insurance or pay Social Security, all the FICA taxes. So they're more than happy to hire illegal aliens, and those are jobs that would go to regular people that need to support their houses, need to support their families, pay a mortgage and whatnot, and those jobs are being taken away by illegal aliens. So a lot of people that are marginal, that rely on the skills, rely on construction, are finding less and less of those jobs available. One, because the economy is so slow, and two, because a lot of those jobs are taken up by illegal aliens. But the homeless population around Crestone is, I know that there's a tendency to blame everything on the homeless people in any area, but there are things missing around town. People have had to secure a lot of their belongings. They're locking up their stuff in sheds and stuff. They don't no longer leave stuff laying around because it winds up missing. I had somebody take one of those small propane tanks from my property this year. Well, it's $15 to buy another tank, when you got a refill. And right now I'm not working. I make some money off of this show. I make some money off of the Trailer Park Profit Love Connection. I'm going to build a fence for a doctor in town. I'm hustling. I do my best to pay my own way. I try to be smart with my money. I don't eat out a lot. I don't go to the bar. I don't do a lot of things that normal Americans do and enjoy because I don't have the money. And part of it is I don't want to work either. I'm to the point now where my hips are shot, my knee is shot, and I had this one crazy ailment. I talked about it last year. They still don't know what the hell happened to me, but my muscles are always tight, like I've just done a major workout. I have trouble moving around. I'm tired by the end of the day. I'm tired after my walk with Bailey every day, so I don't really have the energy to do the things that I normally did. But I'm trying to continue on. I'm trying to find work. I'm trying to support myself. I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't necessarily look down my nose at homeless people. I do have compassion for them. I have empathy for them. I don't think a day goes by that I haven't thought about Dave, this old man sleeping in the back of his pickup, when I'm in I'm living in what I consider a beautiful home. I have a little fifth wheel that I live in, but it's paid for, and I don't have to pay rent, thanks to Fred Bowder, and I'm very grateful for that. And I know in a lot of ways I'm lucky, and I count my blessings, and that's why I don't feel like I should stand in judgment or look down my nose at the homeless people. But yet, I have eyes, I have ears, and it's impossible for a human being not to be judgmental. We look at the world through judgmental eyes. You have to. You have to. Either you admit that you're doing it, or you're doing it subconsciously. There's no way around how a human cannot sit in judgment of other humans every single waking hour of our existence. That's what we do. When you lay eyes on somebody, your organic computer does an instant analysis of that individual you're looking at, or any individual you're looking at. And you can say, well, don't be judgmental, but it's in our nature, it's in our DNA to be judgmental. It's part of what we do as human beings in order to survive. We have to make good judgment, good decisions. That's part of the fight or flight, that's part of being in the wild. You have to make sure that you're safe. And you do that by being judgmental. And we've had a lot of problems in Crestone. I've heard that, the homeless people, they go and they squat on somebody's property. And I can take it right outside my door and show you probably 15 camps of people that were living here last summer, and they just up and leave. They leave their tents, they leave all their clothes. I'm sure they take the expensive stuff, but they just abandon their camps. They don't clean them up. Now, a lot of them will think, well, I'm going to come back. That happens all the time. You're up in the way up in the wilderness and you see an abandoned camp, a lot of people are lazy or they think they're going to come back and they never do, so that kind of thing happens. But around town here, these were people last year, 15 little camps of them all over. I've seen them all over, which means that there's got to be more of them, people coming to live in a tent in Crestone. And I'm sure this kind of thing happens a lot. I know it happens a lot in resort towns. But the word is from Crestone that it's okay to live in Crestone homeless. That's the message. And the message about Crestone, too, is that we don't have any police, which we don't, which means there's no law, and that attracts a certain kind of person, a lawless person, in my mind. But people think that we're going to, live in peace, love, and dope, and everything's going to work out. But what's kind of ironic is the old hippies now that run Crestone, the old hippies that are on the town council here in Crestone, now they understand from a leadership position that they need to take some action against homeless people and against what goes on in the park. So they've been forced to put up a video camera at the park, and now we're actually we have patrols come through here from the county, Saguache County. And I was telling some of these homeless people about these old hippies and how that they've come around to the fact that we do need law enforcement, that we do need a law enforcement presence, and that it was the old hippies that were the ones that sanctioned the town putting up a video camera at the park. And I pointed out the cameras to these squatting hippies, and I said, well, there you go. I mean, that's what happens when hippies get old. They turn more conservative. There's the camera. And they were surprised. They saw the camera. They didn't even know the camera was there. I mean, they go to the park all the time. They didn't even realize there was a camera. And you could see in their faces they were astonished because they thought Crestone was cop free, the man free, and it's not at all. And I'm glad the camera's there. And the only time they look at the camera is if there's an accusation of an assault or a theft or something of that nature. Then the town manager will go back and look at the video and be able to identify who that person is. And I'm all for it. I wasn't too wild about it at first, but then after I talked to the town manager in Crestone, I thought, you know what? It's a pretty good idea. But what's going to happen in the future when more and more homeless people start appearing across the country? I mean, have you noticed a lot more homeless people in your own town or in your own walk of life? Are you noticing the same thing I have? I noticed it in Delta. I noticed it in Gunnison. And that was a funny thing, too. I was talking to a bunch of kids in Gunnison one time, and I said, you know what? We have homeless people in Gunnison, and they couldn't believe it. They said, no, that's not true. Oh, I've never seen any homeless people, they said. And yet, I know where they were. I know where they are. I've seen people living in their cars in Gunnison. I've seen them living in their trucks and their vans. And I've also seen people living in the forest in Gunnison. And it's funny that a lot of people are not aware of homelessness. They act like, well, that's what happens in the big city, not here in our little white cracker town up in the mountains, but it's there. It happens. I mean, there's people living all over the woods in Crested Butte. In fact, I imagine if we were to go and check out the BLM and check out the Forest Service, I'm sure they have a manual on how to deal with homeless people. And they make it, and it's not so bad that people are living in the forest, but they don't know how to live in the forest and be stealthy and clean about it. And I've lived in the forest around here and other places around Crested Butte, and you gotta be stealthy. You can't have people find you. And it's not that hard to do. You don't put your tent on a trail or next to the river or the lake. You hide it, and you make sure you come in from different directions so you don't have a beaten path to your campsite. You pack out all your trash. You move every few weeks. You know, you got to be smart about it. And, you know, like Dave living in his truck, I've lived in my truck before, and you go and you take a bath once in a while at the not the shelter, but you know, they usually have a place, you know, where I mean, what do you call it? A hostel. You go to the hostel, you know, you pay a few bucks, you get a shower, you keep yourself clean. Nobody knows where the hell you're spending the night. It's none of their business. All right, enough of that. You're listening to Daniel Gray. I'm the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. This is Hump Day with the Prophet. All right, let's get started here. I have this really interesting photo in front of me of a group of what looks like high school kids. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, and they're walking down the street, and all 8 of them are looking and walking at the same time at their smartphones. All 8 of them. And they're obviously supposed to be out together to do something, and yet every single head is tilted towards their smartphone. And there's even a black kid, so it, you know, looks like maybe one of these guys might even be Hispanic, and the rest of them are gringos. But one of them might even be Oriental. So we got all sexes, well, not all sexes. I mean, we got men and women, and I don't know if we have any transgender people in this picture, but all these young people walking down the street, not talking to each other, not looking at the scene. Looks like they're in this beautiful community, and they're all just staring at their smartphone screen. And the headline here is, "Here's your zombie apocalypse." And it is kind of weird, you know, zombies are so popular with the millennials, kids 14 to 35. They love zombies, and yet they're kind of the zombies. You know, you're kind of a zombie. You're not when you're just staring at your smartphone, because you're not with who you're communicating with. You're not communicating with who you're with. You're not where you're at when you're on your smartphone. You're someplace else, in a way. You know, it's like you're not living in reality if all you do is clutch your smartphone. And I'll tell you, if you ever watch these people clutch these cell phones, these smartphones, I mean, they don't let those things out of their sight. I mean, they always have to have them with them. They're lost without their smartphone. And I thought this was really interesting back in the 90s when everybody was starting to get their own cell phone, and it seemed like that nobody was where they were at. And they are sort of zombies, and it's just kind of ironic that the millennials love zombies so much, and they actually do look like zombies. It's just kind of odd. Oh, I got a quote from Louis Armstrong. I love this quote. He says, "All music is folk music. I ain't never heard a horse sing." All music is folk music. I wonder what Louis Armstrong would think of rap. You think he would call that folk music? Can a horse sing folk music, Mr. Prophet? Probably not. Okay, in honor of Women's History Month, we have a special tribute this morning honoring the life and military service of actress Bea Arthur. Before the Golden Girls and before Maude, Arthur had enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1943. Wow! She served 30 months as a typist and truck driver and achieved the rank of staff sergeant. Arthur was discharged in 1945 and began what would become a legendary acting career 2 years later. She died in 2009 at the age of 86. While no one knows why she denied her service, records indicate she was a good worker, and at just 21 was willing to get in now and do whatever is desired of me. Thank you for your service, Bea, and cheers. And this is from Jason Davis. Why would she deny her service? Well, no one knows why she denied her service. I didn't know she denied her service. Interesting. Oh, this is kind of interesting. Louis Farrakhm. We've talked about him several times. He's a black man, and he is the head of the Nation of Islam. Said during his weekly video sermon that white people have a history of stirring up trouble, and that Allah has chosen blacks to give life and sit on top of civilization. Now that's racist. That's pure racist. Now remember, racism is, textbook racism is thinking that one race is superior to another race. That's racism. And so Farrakhm, by citing that blacks are to sit on top of civilization by Allah, that means that the blacks are the superior race on planet Earth over the other races, and is textbook racism. He also issued the final call, as he termed it, quote, "I say to the Pope and all the lovers of Jesus, if you desire, let's have a showdown. You call the Jesus that you know, and I'll call on the Jesus I know, and let's see which one of us really knows Jesus." Here, let me see, we might have a video. I'd like you to listen to Reverend Louis Farrakhm. I guess he's not a reverend. Can't be a reverend and be head of Islamic organization, I don't think. Okay, here, looks like we do have a video. All right, Louis Farrakhm. You've been on the Trailer Park Prophet show before. Welcome again, sir. I'm a prophet. You like to talk about prophets? Well, I'm the Trailer Park Prophet, so let's hear what you got to say there. Louis Farrakhm, head of the Nation of Islam in Chicago. All right, Louis. All right, maybe it's not going to... Farrakhm quoted widely from Elijah Muhammad, a former leader of the Nation of Islam, is making his case for the abolition of whites. Okay, here we go. Continue. Alright, maybe this will go. I don't know. We'll have to see. Let's see. Farrakhm goes on to say, according to the history of the white race, they are guilty of making trouble, causing war among the people and themselves ever since they've been on planet Earth. So the God of the righteous has found them disagreeable to live with in peace and has decided to remove them from the face of the earth. He said, we are all the victims of these... Here we go.
From the book of Ezekiel, he wrote, according to the history of the white race, they are guilty of making trouble, causing war among the people and themselves ever since they have been on our planet Earth.
Come on, Reverend. Alright, that's not going to work for some reason, so we're going to have to kill the story. I mean, basically you get why I wanted to do this story on Louis Farrakhm. Let's see. Moving on. Illegal drivers cause 1/4 of traffic deaths in Colorado. There's a story today in Colorado about an illegal alien who was in the country illegally, no driver's license, no insurance, and he was involved in a accident out in Aurora, I believe. I was looking for the story and I couldn't find it. And this happened, I believe, yesterday in Colorado. An illegal alien who has had 3 DUIs, which means he wasn't deported because the federal government is ignoring the law. If you're convicted of a DUI, you're supposed to be deported immediately. But what happens is the government is not enforcing the immigration laws. And so this guy was drunk again, driving, and he killed a 3-year-old. And I'm trying to find out more information, and I can't. Have you guys noticed, too, that Yahoo search engine is just lacking? I can't find the stuff I'm looking for a lot of times on Yahoo search, and I have to go to Google or some other search engine to try and get the stories that I know that are out there. I mean, I know that I'm looking for particular stories and I can't find them, but I couldn't find out who this individual was. But I found this, and I thought this was even more interesting anyways. And it's from ironically, a legal blog from Bacchus and Shanker. They're a couple of lawyers. They're Colorado's injury law firm. And they write that most of us have at least one parking or speeding ticket in our driving careers. We all get assessed points against our licenses, pay our fines, and promise not to do it again. But according to a Denver Post article, there are about, get a load of this, 225,000 illegal drivers in Colorado. I think there's a hell of a lot more. These illegal drivers caused nearly 1/4 of all traffic deaths in Colorado last year. 1/4? And there's 6 million people in Colorado. So how can only 225,000 drivers cause 1/4 of all traffic deaths? That's why I think there's a hell of a lot more illegals in Colorado and other places across the country. In 2008, Colorado saw 548 people killed in motor vehicle crashes, and of those, 130 of these fatalities, 24% involved illegal drivers. According to the auditor's report, only 7 other states had a higher rate of total crashes involving higher drivers last year, or involving illegal drivers last year. Getting and keeping your driver's license should be considered a privilege. In order to keep that license, a driver must be a responsible driver. The state of Colorado may suspend or revoke your license for these reasons: speeding, reckless driving, drunk driving, driving under the influence, refusing to take a blood alcohol test, leaving the scene, driving without liability insurance, and failing to keep current on child support payments. That's kind of a weird thing, too. I believe that's the case all over the United States, that you lose your driving privilege if you don't keep up on your child support payments. And let's see what else here. An audit was requested. No, let's see. Alright, well, at any rate, that's the basic story right there, is that 24% of fatalities, vehicle fatalities in Colorado, are by illegal aliens. And so, but here's something else. Okay, so I'm on Yahoo search, and I search Colorado illegal drunk driver kills, and I thought, well, that would bring me to the story I wanted that happened yesterday. And then there's story after story. Impacts of illegal immigration, traffic accidents. Here's one story: boy 3 killed after drunk driving illegal immigrant with no insurance. Another story: drunk driver kills. Another illegal drunk driver kills. Here's another one: 2 malcontents, Mexican illegal alien with extensive rap sheet caught again drunk driving. Suspect faces first-degree murder charge in Aurora crash. This actually might be my story. Illegal immigrant kills Americans in drunk driving accidents. Here, so this may possibly be what the number is nationally for illegal drivers killing killing legal drivers in America. I shouldn't say illegal drivers. I should say drivers that are illegal aliens, or illegal alien drivers. Yeah, you know, here's like another story. It shows a picture of a family. And this kid, Cyrus Mansuni, this is back in August of 2013, an illegal immigrant who was not deported despite numerous run-ins with the law, killed Heather Van Housen when he T-boned her car while he was driving under the influence. This tragic collateral damage is what happens when you have an administration that routinely flaunts the law it is sworn to enforce. But, you know, good God, there's like one story after another here. And here's this is kind of interesting too. It says MAD, you know, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, okay with illegals with DUIs staying on American roads. Can you believe that? That's in the Huffington Post. Hey, wait, we might please take Alright, let's see. On page 2, I wonder if there's still more stories about illegal aliens. Colorado marijuana activist killed by drunk driver. The vehicle she was traveling in was struck by an alleged drunk driver. Activist in Colorado was killed when alleged illegal drivers caused 1/4 of traffic deaths. Alright, that's in Colorado. Drunk driving stories and articles from the DUI library. Oh my God. Yeah, it's just one story after another of illegals that are driving in the USA that have killed people in Colorado. I mean, there's just one story after another, after another, after another. And you know, I mean, it's easy enough to understand that generally a person who would break another country's immigration laws is probably not your best character subject for immigration. I mean, the people that we want to immigrate into this country are people that are law-abiding. So I'm sorry, just by the pretext of these individuals who are coming illegally into our country, just on the face, prima facie, they're not good people in my mind. They're damaged in my mind. And we have the loosest immigration policy on planet Earth. And we're attracting bad people. And what do you think? You think bad people have good kids? I wonder what the statistics are on that. Alright, my friend Preston Smith writes, oh, this is a big dust-up. Recently, Donald Rumsfeld. Here, I'll just do the quote so I'll get you up to speed on this story by Preston Smith. He says, primates don't use primates. Okay, quote, it has gone downhill like a toboggan ever since the Obama administration came in. By the way, my friend Preston Smith is a conservative black man. He goes on to say, the U.S. has status of forces agreements with more than 100 countries. Actually, this is Donald Rumsfeld talking. A trained ape can get a status of forces agreement. It does not take a genius. And we have so mismanaged that relationship, said former Secretary of Defense Ronald Rumsfeld. He said that last night on Greta Van Susteren, that's a Fox program, upset over Obama's failure to get troops inside of Afghanistan at the end of the year. While I agree with you, Obama's handle what he called the good war all wrong, and now it's coming to an end, and Obama let that idiot Afghan president Hamid Karzai do just what he wanted. But will that be the story? No. On the media, all you will hear is Rumsfeld said ape and Obama in the same paragraph. Why not say donkey? I mean, he's a Democrat, right? Sigh, hopefully I'm wrong. But, you know, I mean, and that's the point. And the forces, I want to go back over this again. A status of forces agreement is an agreement that we have with a lot of countries to allow us to keep forces on the ground, and in particular where Obama took all our forces out of Iraq, so we don't have any forces in Iraq, and now Iraq is slowly slipping into the hands of the Taliban and other radical Islamist group. Iran routinely flies over Iraq now to arm the radical Islamists in Syria. So the state of affairs in Iran, or the state of affairs in Iraq, is devolving. And that's all because President Obama didn't have a status of forces agreement with Iraq. And it looks like we're not going to have a status of forces agreement in Afghanistan too. So all that blood and treasure that we've spent in Afghanistan and Iran, I think there's some 10,000 people have been killed, soldiers, in Iran or in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Maybe it's not that high. What is that number? Do you happen to know that number? I think I heard around 6,000 soldiers have died in Iraq and Afghanistan. So all that loss of life, all that pain and suffering of their families, all that is for naught, because we don't have a status of forces agreement, and that's because of Barack Hussein Obama. And now, if it's true, as Donald Rumsfeld is saying, that we don't have a status of forces agreement in Afghanistan, that means that all the women in Afghanistan, after we pull out at the end of this year, are now going to come under the yoke of radical Islamists. And we're going to see a genocide of people who supported America in Afghanistan. They're going to be systematically murdered by the Taliban when we pull out of Afghanistan. And as far as I'm concerned, that's blood on Obama's hands. And as far as Rumsfeld saying that a trained ape can get a status of forces agreement, and, you know, I mean, so that's racial. You know, the lamestream media is going to say, well, you shouldn't call a black man a monkey. And I don't know. It just, if everybody's equal, then anyone can be called a monkey. And Donald Rumsfeld didn't mean to be racial in saying that a trained ape can get a status of forces agreement. You know, I mean, I don't see that as racial. I think it's kind of hypersensitive. But Preston's point is, the press will focus on somebody that took on the president and not focus on the women and children that are going to suffer under radical Islam because of no forces of arms agreement. You know, that's the real story, you would think, but no. All right, I got this story from the Patriot Net Daily. Good story, I thought. I don't think we've used this website before. It's called the Patriot Net Daily. Looks like a really good looking website. But they have a list of companies pushing for amnesty for illegal aliens. And what they're saying is that we ought to go ahead and boycott these companies that support amnesty for illegal aliens. And it says here that, let's see, let's just go into the list of the companies. And I think you're going to be surprised. Cheesecake Factory, CVS, Hallmark Cards, McDonald Corporation, Wendy's, Walt Disney, Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, American Express, 21st Century Fox, Darden Restaurants, that's the Olive Garden, Red Lobster. See, all the restaurants want amnesty for all the illegal aliens because that's who they have working in their kitchens. Liberty Mutual Group, Allstate Insurance, Western Union, Northwestern Mutual, American Airlines, Motorola, Procter & Gamble, Newell Rubbermaid, AT&T, T-Mobile, Caterpillar, Pfizer, Hewlett-Packard, United Parcel, General Electric. And why would United Parcel want amnesty for illegals? Because, you know, it makes no sense to me. They're union workers. They don't hire illegals, although maybe they do in their sorting, where they do, you know, those big sorting plants where they sort the packages. Something tells me they're using illegals there mainly. And then, of course, you got the Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, Cisco Systems. Let's see, who else is kind of interesting? Shell Oil. Now, I'll bet you Shell Oil is in favor of amnesty for illegals, just so they can look like one of those big old oil companies, but at least they're compassionate. And that's the whole thing, like McDonald's. Remember when I reported on McDonald's and that they were providing free advertising for La Raza, the race? And what's going on is a lot of these so-called community organizing groups are putting pressure on these corporations that either they sign up to support amnesty for illegal aliens or they're going to be boycotted or picketed. I mean, I can promise you that that was the case with McDonald's, and I'm sure it's the same way with all of these other 100 or so corporations that are publicly saying that they're for amnesty for illegals. Let's see if you recognize any of these other names. Emerson, General Dynamics, Eastman Chemical, Texas Instruments, Waffle House, yeah, Texas Roadhouse, Chili's, Jack in the Box, and, you know, Domino's Pizza. The progressive socialist statists, they're thugs. And if you don't go along with them, then they're going to smear you in their dead tree newspapers, and they're going to raise hell in front of your business. They're going to lean on you. I mean, there's a lot of ways to lean on these corporations that we're not privy to. And it's exactly how the mafia works. Threats and intimidation. Oh, this is really funny here. This was yesterday. President Obama was giving a speech. And we're going to listen to it here, and I think you'll kind of get the idea why I decided to do this particular video of President Obama yesterday. I'm trying to, let's see, where was he? Well, I know right now he's in Europe. Alright, let's see if we can get this to go. It says at the end of a press meeting, one person claps, seems his popularity is falling. Okay, this is from Mary Green News. News that
balances, legal processes. The good news is that I'm very confident that it can be achieved. And I'm also confident that the core values that America has always believed in, like terms of privacy, rule of law, individual rights, that has guided the United States for many years and will continue to guide us into the future. Thank you very much, everybody.
this is in The Hague.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. Thank you very much for coming.
Nobody clapped. One guy. Man, that is something. So he's at The Hague. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, my computer's going down. I think my computer's overheating. I'm in trouble again. Oh, sorry, boys and girls. My computer's overheating. I got to put some ice in a bowl underneath the thing and turn on a fan to cool it off. It shows that my microphone is on. I may be broadcasting. I may not be. I'm not really sure what my status is right now. Maybe I should put a little more ice. Ay, ay, ay. This is unfortunate. Oh man, come on baby, come back to me.
Looks like I'm still on. I'm back. This is the Trailer Park Prophet. I'll continue. Alright, hostess, can